Hey YouTube, how you doing? Hope you're all well. Hope all your exercise and rehabilitation, whatever you're up to, is going fantastic and you are improving every single day. Special hello to my 78 followers. Oh, absolutely mental. Thank you very much for following me. If you need anything, as always, leave a message below and I'll see if I can do a video for you to help you out, or just DM me and I'll get back to you. So I thought for today's video, I've had a little bit of a tight back recently, and the main reason why I get a tight back are because my inner thigh muscles, my adductors, and also a muscle called the hip flexor or hip flexors, they're pretty tight. Some of the reasons why they get tight: legs closed all the time. If you sit down, maybe you cross your legs, or if you lay down, same again, maybe you cross your legs over. You'll probably notice that one leg will cross compared to the other leg crossing, even though sometimes you will swap backwards and forwards. You'll have one leg predominantly wants to be the crosser. Whichever leg is the crosser, that hip flexor will be very, very tight. So the hip flexors, they start from the groin area. So inside, it then travels through the hip into the back of the pelvis, but the other side. So if you were to touch your pelvis here, you wouldn't be able to feel the hip flexors because it's at the other side of the wall. And then you've got more hip flexors that come into the lower back and the spine. Now, when we sit down, they shorten. And then what should happen is when we stand up, they have to lengthen. But the issue is because they're so tight, we then have our pelvis tilted forward because the hip flexors are going to pull us shorter, because what they don't want to do is they don't want to be in their full range of movement. So because these muscle groups get really, really tight, and we now know the muscle gets into the lower back, it's probably one reason why if you do have a lower back issue, lower back tightness, maybe that's the problem. And a great way to find out whether it is the hip flexors or the lower back is sit down, and then when you stand up, if your back starts to hurt, it's probably not your back which is actually the issue. Hip flexors. The reason I think the hip flexors is because if you're sitting down, let's go this way because I can't stand on one leg the other way. If you're sitting down, your hip flexors are short. Also, for most people, they kind of round forward a little bit, which basically means we are getting a stretch in the back. So if we're stretching when we're sitting down through our back muscles, but we're shortening through the hips, and then as we stand up, we feel the back pulling. It's not going to be the back muscles, it's going to be these muscle groups pulling here. The adductors, which also join through the groin area, we've got one adductor which probably finishes just before halfway, another adductor probably halfway, another one just before the knee, and then the last one crosses the knee. And if you've had an Ilizarov frame fitted, you would have had some of the pins going through those muscles, so they're going to get tight as well. Once you've loosened the groin muscles up and the hip flexors, I can guarantee your back will feel so much looser afterwards, and you wouldn't have even stretched your back. So the way we're going to be stretching those inner thigh muscles and the hip flexors for this particular exercise, there is a better stretch for the hip flexors, but I think this one is a really, really good one to start with. Got a crutch to hold on to, or if you need something, just hold on to it to the side. Leg goes up. To begin with, the knee will probably want to bend, just because we are going to get a little bit of stretch through the hamstrings, the adductors, which we know cross over, and also we may actually not have the flexibility through the hip to begin with. So leg goes up, then turn the hip around. So as we turn the hip, what the hip wants to do is it wants to go back on itself. So you almost want to feel as though you're leaning forward. That's what your body wants you to do, but that's not what you should be doing. When you get into this position, lock the leg out, squeeze the butt cheek, and pull the hip forward and through, and you can even start to rotate a little bit. As you go through that range of movement, you may actually feel a little bit of a clunk or a click going on the hip. That's just the tendon from either the muscle group of hip flexor or adductor just crossing over one another because of how tight that is. Keep the glutes contracted. 8 seconds on, 8 seconds off, 8 seconds on, 8 seconds off. Squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. Every time you squeeze the glute, pull the hip forward. 8, 7, 6, 5, squeeze 4, squeeze 3, squeeze 2, squeeze 1, and then just relax a little bit. Once I've relaxed, I'm going to turn a little bit more. Notice how the foot stays in the same position at the moment. And I turn, and I squeeze the butt cheek again. Lock that leg out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can come back. The height of the step will be determined by whether you can straighten the leg and whether you can bring the hip through. Obviously, if you can't come up this high, I didn't start here. I started probably about halfway down. And then over the weeks and over the months, I've just built it up, built it up, built it up. So that's going to give us a really, really nice stretch. And then when the leg comes down, if you then have a little walk around, everything will feel a bit loose. Whenever you stretch, you weaken the joint because a stretch is trying to tell the nervous system and the muscular system to switch off, hence lengthening the muscle. But the more you tell a muscle to switch off, the less stability there is in the joint. So later on, what I'll be doing in my session is I'll be doing some glute work, and I'll be doing some thigh work and some hamstring work, and just try and tighten everything up with that added little bit of flexibility. Okay, so give it a go. I can only do one side because I'm not great on the other side just yet. And really, that leg is the one which is super tight. So that's all we need to stretch to begin with. Give it a go. 8 seconds on, 8 seconds off, 10 times. Have a little bit of a rest for about 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Do it again. 3 sets. See how you feel. Leave a message below if you need any more advice, as I say. And until next time, speak to you later. Bye-bye.